Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back to Politics and Debate. Inshallah, today we're going to be asking the question, should we as Muslims, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, be involved in politics? Now, politics is treated very much as a taboo by many people. It's treated as a dirty word. Because when we look at some of the examples of current politicians around the world, we see the depths of corruption and greed. For example, recently here in the UK, we've had the expenses scandal. And now more than ever, people are asking the question, can we trust politicians? And should we disassociate ourselves from politics altogether? Joining me to answer these questions is my esteemed guest, Brother Zahra. Assalamu alaikum. So, just to get down to the point really, do you think that we as Muslims, do you think we should be getting involved in politics?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, salatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi tayyibin tahirin. Yes, certainly. Muslims should get involved in politics, and on various occasions people have asked religious scholars and religious authorities whether it is allowed for Muslims to get involved in politics in their homelands, like in the West, if you like, British Muslims or Muslims who live and work in Western countries. And they said yes, they should get involved in politics. Of course they observe their duties, but it's basically they should get involved in politics for the advancement of the cause of the Muslim community in that country, and for the advancement of the interests of the country as a whole. The countries where they are living, that's their countries, and their children will be born in those countries. That's their home countries, and they should pursue to advance the interests of those countries which they live in. So yes, they should get involved in politics. If some politicians around the world do something wrong or involved in corruption and so on, it doesn't mean that everywhere is going to be like this. For example, Muslims in this country, if they get into politics, obviously they must make sure they behave in the most esteemed manner, the best manner possible. They're there to, as I said, advance the interests of their community and their country. And politics needn't be a bad word. It yes. Could be very useful. It could be. It's basically a means to work for the welfare of the country and the people.
And we see that from Islamic history, of course. We see it in the Holy Quran with Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. He worked for the Egyptian government, who were originally idol worshippers. And also we see it in the course, of course, with Imam Ali alayhi salam, who was the voice of human justice, and he was the ruler of the Muslims. Now, the way I see it is, when it comes to getting involved with politics, there are two main ways that we can be involved. The first way is by voting, and then the second is actually for running for office, so as an MP, potentially being a presidential candidate or running to be a prime minister. Now, first of all, looking at the issue of voting, there are some schools of thought within Islam, mainly the Wahhabi Salafi sect. They go as far to say that if we go and place a vote for who we want to run our country or our local council, for example, then that is shirk, the unforgivable sin in Islam of associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the view of the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam on voting?
Yes, again, this has been asked from the religious authorities, and they have confirmed that yes, it's permissible, it's legitimate that you go and vote for the person that you think they're going to safeguard your interests and the interests of your community. And of course, the person you're voting could be either Muslim or non-Muslim, but in either case, if you believe that that individual is going to serve your community, is going to serve the interests of your community and your country, then you should vote for them. And voting, contrary to the other opinion that you mentioned, that is the best at least means today we have to try help run our affairs, if you like.
Yes, and I find it very strange that these individuals think that it's a form of shirk, because all we're doing is having a say in who we want to lead our country. We're not saying that Theresa May or David Cameron or Gordon Brown are godlike at all. Like it just doesn't make sense. So as well, the second part with regards to running for office, I guess one thing that a Muslim who might be interested in becoming an MP, for example, one thing that might be in the back of their mind is just like, how do I disassociate from this corruption? Because unfortunately, as human beings, you know, we get dazzled by the bright lights, we get greedy, we get arrogant. How does a Muslim who wants to go into this field and make a change for the better, how do they disassociate themselves from that?
Well, you should, any individual, they should consider that they should be acting in an honest way. They should consider themselves that now that I'm elected to an office, I'm in a position of power, I shouldn't abuse that power. I'm there to serve my country. I'm there to serve my constituent, to serve my people, nothing else. And just because I have some authority, that doesn't mean that I can abuse that authority. You should know that you are there to discharge your duties and carry out your responsibilities, and you just have to be honest with yourself that this is what I have to do. I'm there to serve my community, my constituent, and my country. And under no circumstances you should be deluded or be fooled that I can abuse my position. And of course, in countries like in this country, you have, if you like, the press. You have a system where if you do manage to do something wrong, eventually you will be that's right, this will become known, and this will bring you, if you like, embarrassment, at least. So basically there is no room as far as corruption is concerned, and the best, you refer to some scenarios which took place beforehand. The best thing is to be honest to yourself, to consider yourself that you're there to serve your community and your constituent and your country.
Yes, it's not just a position of power that a person takes up to look good as such, because ultimately you are providing a service to the people. And you're very right, the fact, you know, that there's no secrecy these days. You know, everybody knows everything as such, and even if you do get away with it, ultimately you have to answer to the King of Kings on the Day of Judgment, and it's not worth that. So I think not just with running for office and being involved with politics, with everything, we must maintain that taqwa, that God consciousness within our lives, inshallah. So I guess finally, it's just, how do we finally break that taboo around politics, and how do we educate and engage our communities to get involved to make a positive change?
We should basically tell them that the end result is that you can serve your country, you can serve your community by getting involved in politics and or running for office, for example, and that is a good cause. That is a good, if you like, objective. That by doing so, I will enhance the welfare of my community and my constituent and my country. It's something which it's far from it, far from being taboo. It's something which is a means which is very useful at the end of the day for the community. We have examples of how we can learn from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. best example is during the reign of Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he ruled as the head of state for about 4.5 years. Of course, we can talk for many hours about this. Of course,
yeah.
But the one thing that we can learn from it is that, on the issue of corruption and so on, is that he said that Allah has made it obligatory upon the leaders to live of a Muslim nation, to live like the poorest in the country.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, so the Imam Ali says Allah has made it obligatory upon the leaders or the imams of the Muslim nation. He was talking about the Muslim nation, the imams of the Muslim, to live like the poorest in the country, so that the poor would not feel that this leader of mine, this head of state, is living in a world which is completely different from mine. No, he should feel this confidence that he lives like the way I live, and whether it's his residence, the food, the garment he wears, the means he used for transport or whatever. So that is something which Imam Ali alayhi salam has said that as an obligation that Allah has placed upon them. And of course, as I said, we can go through in details through the lifestyle of the Imam when he was a leader, and there are a lot to learn from the examples of Imam Ali alayhi salam.
We're so lucky. Imam Ali alayhi salam, we could just sing his virtues for hours, subhanallah. Thank you so much for that wonderful discussion, Brother Zahra. But stay tuned, my dear brothers and sisters, as up next, Sister Fatima is going to be discussing working mothers, inshallah.